What makes a video game feel good to play? This is a very simple question that, for sure, is not simple to answer. There are multiple aspects of a game that sum up to make it enjoyable to play. Core mechanics, visual appeal, sound design, narrative, game balancing, you name it. So let's slice into this subject and talk about juiciness and how it definitely improves how your game feels. More than talk, I'm going to show you what I implemented in my upcoming arcade game to juice it up. But before we jump into the practical example, what is juiciness? The first time I heard this term was several years ago in an university game development group, where they showed me a great video about this subject. I'll leave the link in the description, you should definitely check it out. Some quotes from this video talk to summarize. Juice is what makes your game feel alive and fun to play. And juice is about maximum output for minimum input. Essentially, we are talking about player feedback, how your game reacts to the player actions and how it makes those actions feel important. Jumping into the more practical example, how did I juice up my game? Quickly explaining my game so that you can understand this example. It is a rock, paper, scissors inspired 3D top view arcade game, where the player has a limited time frame to win as many rock, paper, scissors battles as possible. The enemies are spawned and move randomly in the map. The tool that the player uses, meaning rock, paper, or scissors, is changed randomly during the gameplay. So the player needs to be careful not to get greedy and underestimate the rock, paper, scissors mayhem. After I had refined the gameplay decently and set up a visually complete and cohesive playable map, I had the starting point that you are watching right now. The gameplay works and it is fun to play. It looks nice. It's not just a bunch of gray cubes in the map as in the initial prototypes, but the soul of the game is missing. It feels plain and simple. You can't really tell what is happening when. And as said before, it is important to give the player feedback to their actions in the game to make things properly react. Since the core mechanic of the game is about battling the enemies in this rock, paper, scissors mayhem manner, I started out making the battle feel better, adding camera shake. Adding a shake to the camera when the player battles make it feel more impactful. And increasing the shake when the player loses the battle enhances this impact in the gameplay. We can now feel the intensity of the battles. The next step was to add sound effects to the battle. The battle mechanic is very simple. When the player collides with an enemy, you can win, lose, or nothing happens. So I added a battle win sound effect and a battle lose sound effect, adding a little pitch variation so that it is not always the exact same sound. And now our battle feels much better, but the level itself feels empty. So the next thing I did was add ambient music. Now we have the feeling that the environment is more alive. You can hear a soundtrack and the sound of children playing around. Our kindergarten level is filled with life. Another part of the core game mechanic is the player randomly changing the tool in use. This adds a layer of unpredictability to the gameplay, emulating the expectation and tension of a regular rock, paper and scissors game. So it is important for the player to have a noticeable feedback when this tool change happens. And I started out adding a sound effect since I was already working with sound in the project. With this new sound effect, the player has an audio cue to help identifying that the tool changed, and this is a crucial moment in the game. But I was not over with the sound effects yet. It would be good to have an audio cue that helped the player identify what is the currently selected tool as well. So I added an idle tool sound for each tool that the player is currently possessing: rock, paper or scissors. With the tool idle sound effect, we have a subtle indicator of the current tool that the player is playing, and this helps identifying the current state of the game. Since the gameplay is very dynamic, this ends up helping a lot, even if it is a subtle effect. With all this audio work, it was time to start implementing some effects to juice up the game visually. The first VFX to be implemented was the tool Change effect. For the tool Change VFX, I created this purple magical low poly smoke, so that it covers the player tool before revealing the new tool that was randomized. It also gives this magic transformation aspect to the tool switch, being also a possible lore element represented in the gameplay. The tool change is now juiced up, polished, and complete. The player can clearly hear and see that the tool changed, and this is a crucial moment in the dynamics of the gameplay. But there was still more that could be done. The battle can have particles as well. Since the main goal is to win as many rock paper scissors games as possible, we can add some more juice to the battle win. Make it more satisfying. But since we already had a lot going on in the screen, this was also an effect that needed calibration to be subtle. So I added this simple white emissive particle burst effect. It is subtle indeed, but it gives an extra juice. And finally, there was one last thing that is important for the player to know. How are the battles affecting the total score? To solve this feedback need, I made a widget appear on screen displaying the score increment or decrement right after the player battles. The widget fades out after a couple of seconds so that the screen does not get overly crowded. And now the player has a better visual understanding of how the gameplay actions are affecting the total score. And that's the juice I added to the core gameplay of my upcoming arcade game. It did not change the main structure of the game, it is still the same game, but it feels much more alive, responsive and playful. It is definitely better. So let's compare how it was before and after. That's it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more game dev content. Thank you for your time and patience. See you next time. Bye!